All right.
Nice.
All right. So we are joined from Chicago by my friend Alexis Brown, one of the top mixologists and service bar professionals in the United States. Been featured in so many magazines, and not only in Chicago but all over the country. We got a room full here with us at Velma Jackson High School, and we're recording this for our friends at Rosa Scott, Madison Central High School, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. And we're in the hospitality, tourism, career cluster, which I have a lot of experience in myself, and I know you have dedicated several years, being even featured as a Chicago 40 under 40 in the service industry, just doing so many great things in the service industry and your nonprofits, which we'll obviously talk about, to get more diversity in front of the house careers in hospitality. So before we talk about the careers and what it all is you do, tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah.
There in the Windy City.
Thank you for that lovely introduction. I am from the south side of Chicago, born and raised essentially. And I have always, wanted to be downtown and work in the hotels and bars in the bustling city. But I got my start doing promotions as like passing out samples in the grocery store and in the liquor stores, and that's kind of how I got my start. But I always had a love for hospitality. I always like giving people an experience. I also have a theater background, so I've always been in plays and theater, and so being behind the bar was kind of like a stage for me. And I love talking to people. I love meeting new people. So it just kind of was a natural fit. It seemed like it was a way for me to couple all of my interests. I also love cooking, so this was a way for me to kind of cook in front of people, if you will. And I just wanted to find, I kind of fell into this. I didn't expect for this to be, my career pathway, but it kind of just found me essentially. And I think that, like I said, I just was able to couple everything all into one with mixology and being in restaurants and bars.
Yeah, and that's a great point because I have 11 years myself, and I'm the same way. I love meeting new people. I love being part of the conversation. I love being part of the party. And I was at Applebee's for a while, and every Monday Night Football, I got to watch football with all the regular crowd, and we were always talking.
Mm-hmm.
So, for people that are outgoing, there's a lot of opportunity. And even in Mississippi, down on the coast, we have all of our casinos and restaurants and hotels. There is a need for young people to get involved in this, and especially minorities. And I think a common misnomer is I'm not even a big drinker. I really never have been, but being knowledgeable of cocktails and wine is invaluable because of the sales. Because I know Chicago even more so. You meet somebody from out of town, they're like, "Hey, I want to try something. Do you guys have locally here? Goose Island and Stone County and some of the local breweries in Chicago, some of your local wineries that can pair with the food. Being knowledgeable of that things doesn't mean that you're a drunk. So I think that's
No.
a misnomer.
And another thing that kind of sparked for me, and why I did start actively pursuing this as a career, was learning about spirits and learning about culture, because these spirits are coming from places that I can, at the time, I just only dreamed of visiting and going. I got my first passport because I was invited to Guadalajara, Mexico, to visit Patron. So before that, I didn't even have a passport because it just didn't seem attainable, or, like I said, I'm from the south side of Chicago. So it's only, downtown is downtown is like what some people aspire to go to, and they've never even been downtown. So, just coming from a very segregated city, that was, my way of getting out of my environment, whether it was learning it, from reading and through books and watching videos and documentaries. And then it became a reality for me. And I learned so much about, different societies, history, just economical things, because, a lot of the spirits are made from agriculture, and learning how agriculture and the economy work together just was kind of like fascinating to me. So I learned more of what they were teaching in school through spirits when I got out of school. I learned more about the world through it, and that was kind of my avenue. And it allotted me a lot of opportunities the more that I learned and the more that I stepped out of my comfort zone, and just took some time to calibrate my perspective on things.
Yeah, and that's a great point too, is this is a great career that you can get into without necessarily going the traditional college route. I mean, there's some great hospitality associates and college programs, but people in the hospitality industry want people that are personable. They want people that can sell. They want people that can communicate, and they want people that don't mind working late at night. And I think if you can fit into all of those categories, you can make a really, really good living in this field.
Yeah. I really truly believe that the skills that you learn, the soft skills, right? Like you just said about having work ethic, being a problem solver, conflict resolution, organization, those type of things are the things that you learn. And if you are good at those, or if you're even just cognizant of those skills, you learn them full speed ahead being in restaurants and bars. And I know that we're talking to ninth graders, and they shouldn't be thinking about alcohol and spirits right now. But it's more about like I said, work ethic, learning those soft skills, and you can do that when you turn 18 or 16 at any restaurant, even at the fast food restaurants. We know that a lot of times those places are where you learn about customer service. Even I consider retail an aspect of hospitality as well. So when I think about just hospitality as a whole, if you don't mind, I just want to kind of like define that a little bit.
Oh, sure.
And there is a book that I shared with you all the last time, but it's a book called A Time for New Dreams, and it's by a Nigerian poet. His name is Ben Okri, and he talks about where the heart and soul of hospitality comes into play, and basically that it's essentially a genius that recognizes the genius in others, and focuses on just being more humane. And I think that right now, with the boom of the internet, and there are a lot of computers and robots taking people's jobs, but we're missing that humanity piece. And that goes a long way. That touches people and moves them in a different way. And you really see how it is needed, that extra touch. So I'll just recite a few pieces from his that where he talks about hospitality. So he says, hospitality begins in the soul. 1 second, I lost it. Hospitality begins in the soul. Hospitality is more than a rational, deliberate act. It is a way of being. And I'll pause right there real quick because I just want to go into that. When we talk about the type of person you are, your personality, if you know you're not a people person, don't go into hospitality. You're simply dealing with people all day, different personalities, people that might be having a bad day, and you have to understand that it's not about you. And if you respond certain ways to certain people, and you know that you don't deal with people well, then that might not be a career path for you, and you have to recognize that. So even if it is a great lucrative money maker, you have to know what you're good at and where your strengths and your faults are. So it is a way of being in hospitality for sure. Hospitality ought to be built into a people's way of living. So when he says that, I think that goes back into being kind to your neighbor. Sometimes we have adopted the my name Bennett and I ain't in it if something's going on around us, where we should have concern about our neighbor, and just like I said, being more caring and more hospitable within the spaces that we observe with others. A people can only live the art of hospitality if they transform what they are, and that goes back to again, humanity. So hospitality is very much so related to humanity. Hospitality is not a habit. It is a genius of self that recognizes the genius of other selves. So again, just recognizing that my neighbor is a human being. I should treat them how I want to be treated. And that aspect. Hospitality takes us back to the root of human, the source of rivers. Hospitality is not tolerance or charity, nor is it weakness. Hospitality can only come from the true strength of knowing what one is and the tranquility of allowing other people to the strength of what they are. So empowering, yeah, that one is strong. Empowering, your neighbor to be who they are, not judge them, not fault them for who they are, but just help them be better if there's a way that you can, where you're not exhausting yourself. And a lot of times, being in restaurants and bars, these people are coming in, you don't know what type of day they've had. And so, or what they're going through. And when they come into your space, allowing them grace and allowing them to kind of like take a load off and kind of catering to that need. Being able to read that is important. So I'm not going to go into all of them because I want you all to maybe pick up the book. You can find it on Amazon, A Time for New Dreams by Ben Okri, and I'll send it over to you so you can share it with everyone. But yeah, I think that it's a beautiful space to be in. Like I said, I've been allotted a lot of opportunities. I've been able to express my creativity, utilizing fresh ingredients and changing them into liquids, or utilizing spirits and understanding them at their chemical makeup. And it has been a very rewarding career for me so far. And I'm only just begun. I'm kind of at the beginning of my career, so I'm interested to see where things go.
Yeah, and you mentioned creativity, and that's another great point, because while you were at the Drifter in Chicago, you created drinks, and you created even some great non-alcoholic drinks, because
Yeah.
you have the pregnant you have the pregnant women, you have the people that maybe are on a medication that can't drink, you have the designated drivers, and you really found a way to include everybody as part of the hospitality. And especially on our Instagram culture, people were still being able to take a picture of it, and they were matching it with a creative dish. Some of those appetizers and sandwiches you guys had there, and it looked really cool. And they're like, "Hey, man, I'm gonna go down to the Drifter, look at that drink, and how cool it is." So that creativity is a big part of it as well.
Yeah, yeah, it is, and it's ever evolving. And the more that you learn, the more you grow, and the more you're able to get creative with it. And I've looked at it as an outlet. I've competed in cocktail competitions where you kind of are able to story tell. So I've been able to tell my story, tell stories of my experiences, about to honor or pay homage to ancestors and those that have come before me in a creative way. So, like, it is really a creative outlet. It is a outlet to learning to learning a little bit more about sociology, anthropology through history. And I just think that you learn so many soft skills that are transferable to any other career. So even if you just start out, I always said, and if I have kids, I'll tell them this, that they should always work at least a year or two in hospitality as a youth, in their youth, to learn those skills, because they are really invaluable.
I agree, and a lot of other fields will look for people that have worked on the front line in hospitality, because they want people that can sell.
Yep.
Because a big part of hospitality is the upsell. And if they know somebody has experience upselling, and if they're in a marketing firm and they say, "Man, this person used to work at a XYZ spot in this resort in this big city, man, I bet they do great for us." So that's a great resume builder. And I agree 100% that working in hospitality, even if it's not a full-time career for you, can be very useful to learn the skills that so many young people seem to not want now, because they're all glued to their phones.
Yep. No, 100%. Yeah. And it's just I think that it's a duty to society as well. It's like your duty to society. What are when you think about what you want to do with your life, it is kind of like, what are you giving back to society? And even if you don't have that figured out, you can maybe find or source that in working in hospitality. So maybe if you do your due diligence of those 2 years or the year and a half or so, in working in like retail or any position in hospitality, working bellhop at a hotel, one of the things that I realized as I went through, figuring out where I wanted to work and where I wanted to be, Hotels are really amazing places because you get to see so many people from different
Yep.
spaces and that are coming in. And even if you're just working valet or working at the front desk, um, how you touch those touches that you give from the beginning, from their first
Yep.
step into the establishment, really leave an impact on people. And you realize that the longer that you stay in it, but sometimes just holding the door open for someone will make their day, or helping them with a bag as they're coming in really does go a long way. And I found that hotels really do have a lot of great benefits, the longer you stay in there. So that's a whole nother conversation about unionization of hospitality. But there are a lot of great career paths, and I always say that if anyone is ever interested or they don't really know where they want to go, I'm available. Like, you can always reach out to me if you're trying to figure something out. And like you said, you have the casino there, so that's always a really good open door, because there are a lot of roles in there that don't have to deal with straight up alcohol or gambling, that you can still get it in.
Yeah, and I think that that's a great point as well, because we're in a small rural area, and a lot of kids say, "Well, I want to live in XYZ city." Hospitality might be the way to do that. I mean, because we were
Yeah.
talking before we came on. Look at Las Vegas. The people that live there are working in hospitality. Look at Miami. The people that live there are working in hospitality. And yeah, if they don't want to go too far, like down on the coast of Mississippi on the beach, it's like Las Vegas. There are casinos and restaurants and
Mhm.
hotels everywhere. And like you said,
And New Orleans is the center of
yeah,
hospitality.
New Orleans as well. I mean, and they're looking for people that can work face to face with customers and meet people from all
Yeah.
over the world. And that is a great point, which is a great segue into talking about causing a stir. Your
Yeah.
organization that
Yeah.
really pushes to diversify customer facing jobs in the restaurant bar industry, because for the longest time, the only jobs in restaurants for minorities were in the back cooking.
Hmm.
Even though that's still also can be a very lucrative job, the front facing employees need to represent your community and having
Yeah.
diverse, having more women, having more minorities. We just finished Black History Month and talked about some of these trailblazers, but this is kind of a forgotten area. So that's something that you've really, especially since 2019, really been strong in. So tell us a little bit about causing a stir,
Yeah.
some of the other things
Yep.
you're doing there in Chicago.
Yeah. So, like I said, Chicago is pretty segregated. And a lot of the bartenders that I come across, like most of them were women of color. We just discussed, like, I hear about these classes, but then I go to the trainings and I'm like one of the only people of color in the room, maybe one of the only women, certainly one of the only women of color in the room. How can we change that? Is it that people are just not getting the information? They just don't know about it. Is it not accessibility? So we had a luncheon. We discussed some things that we could do to change that narrative and maybe get better jobs, have a first look at some of these opportunities. And we started a Facebook group. So we created the Facebook group and just started sharing any and everything that came across our desk. Um, and it grew from there to actual organization, where we held events, where we were um, staffing and giving opportunities to said individuals, and working with brands to highlight them and come up with creative cocktails and just events that were centered around culture. So that we started that in 2017. And obviously the pandemic did hit us hard because we weren't able to do things in person. We did try to do a few trainings, because after we grew and after I grew in my career, I started doing trainings. I started doing spirit category training so that I could equip people with that knowledge and bring them to our neighborhoods. Because anytime that we had classes, they were pretty much downtown or up north. So I wanted to hold classes where it was accessible to people from the South Side and from the South suburbs and the West Side. So my partner and I started teaching category classes and just hospitality 101. And it got a lot of um, public and news. It was very newsworthy, our mission. And I'm happy that we did it when we did it, because I've seen so many organizations come out of that mission. And that means that more people are being touched and more people are being offered opportunities. So I like to think that we're a pioneer in that space and using our voice and really shining a light. A lot of the people that came from our organization are also brand ambassadors, are also educators now, are also cocktail consultants. So it really shows that highlight and that coming together really was impactful.
Yeah, and not only does it diversify the workforce, it diversifies the experience for the community, because so many underserved areas, like, well, over there on the north side, they have all this nice stuff, and it's not that it's not desired, it's just that the staff isn't trained. Because you talked about spirit pairing again, you know, even if just somebody has one drink at dinner and they have just a spirit pairing there with one drink to go with a certain type of food, knowing things like that can not only boost the experience but boost the sales of a small business. So really being knowledgeable of that can, like we said, can be very lucrative and very great for the community.
No, absolutely, yeah.
But I do have some questions from the students. I'll get to as many of these as I can.
Yeah.
Okay, this is these are all ninth graders. This first one's Jaden Thompson, and he asked, "Has this always been your passion, and what was your original career goal as a younger girl?"
So so it's funny. I always wanted to be an actress. I always wanted to be an actress. And then I flipped that and wanted to be a veterinarian because I just loved animals and I wanted to help them. Then when I realized how much schooling you had to go to, I was like, maybe not. But I knew that I always kind of wanted to entertain people. I knew that I always had a passion for bringing people joy. I wanted to, make people smile. I think that that's where it started, and then it started to kind of like form a bit better as I, grew up and experienced things. So I didn't always say yes, I want to be a bartender, or yes, I want to be a mixologist. It kind of fell into that, but I always kind of had a love. I didn't know what it was back then, but it was hospitality. I always had a love for giving hospitable experiences and making people feel good.
Yeah, and there's always going to be, like you said, it's one of the few careers that is going to be AI proof, because even though corporations are going to want the efficient machines, people are still going to want that human interaction and want that human. So it really is a field that is going to be, for the most part, AI proof. This is Booker Carter, and he asked, "What advice would you give someone about customer interactions?"
Booker, I would tell you that you have to sometimes assess the situation very quickly in your mind before you respond to things, because there will be certain triggers, certain microaggressions, and you have to realize when you are dealing with someone that doesn't know you, that it's not about you. So you have to take yourself out of the situation and just respond in the way that can maybe just be a solution based and not emotion based situation. And that's hard sometimes, because you will feel like you're being attacked, like if someone's tone comes across a certain way, and it's like that little meme or that video that was like, it's above me now. You have to kind of take that that approach to certain things. And I'm just talking about things of conflict, because I can imagine that you wouldn't have that question if it wasn't something of conflict. But that's how I always approach things, like, oh, you're not upset with me, you're upset with yourself, or you're upset with something, that an outer entity. And I have to remind people gently that, hey, I'm here to help. What can I help you with? Or how can I be of service? Or how can we turn your attitude better? Or what can we do to make things better for you? Because it seems like you are, having a rough day. And, your tone and just managing yourself, because at the end of the day, we are in customer service. So we are in service of the individual that is in front of us. And, I don't want to tell you to be selfless, because that can be toxic if you allow that all the time. But just knowing that and I'm not very religious, but I am very spiritual. And I feel like people that are in these spaces, they're doing God's work. So you're presented with these things to help people. And if you just kind of keep that mindset, then I feel like your blessings will come down the line anyway.
Absolutely. Now, here's a great question. This is Jordan Smith. He's one of our basketball players here at Belma Jackson, and he asked, how does it feel when you make a drink for the first time and then you get to talk to people about it?"
Well, that is the most exciting part of my, I have a lot of passion for my drinks. They say that I put love in everything that I make. I mean, that's true. And especially coming up with something from like ideation, like I'm coming up with it in my mind, putting it down on paper and actually creating it, going through the having to, do different measurements. What are the builds? What actually that didn't work. So I need to use something else. That whole process, that creative process, and then having an actual product right in front of me that other people can enjoy. It's an indescribable feeling, especially when they like it, when they are enjoying it. And I think that they see how much passion goes behind it, and how much detail goes behind it. And it's just a really great feeling. And you'll know once you produce something. And I know that if you're in basketball, then that feeling after you win a game, everyone is excited. So, your performance and the things that you put in, it's the same kind of feeling. So if you can relate it to when you win a game and everyone else is excited that you all won the game and you brought it all home, it's that same way. It's the same feeling.
Yeah, and I created a few in my day when I was behind the bar, and it really is cool because people will come back for it, and they'll tell their friends about it, and they'll spend more
Yep.
money. So being creative can only lead to more money in your pocket.
I have named. I've asked people like, okay, well, what's your favorite color, or what's your favorite fruit, or what do you like? And I'll create them something, and then they'll say, "Oh, you made this just for me?" And I say, "Yeah." And they're like, "Okay, we call it the something something." I'm like, "Absolutely." And that cocktail might have been something that I made before, but just because I freestyled it for them and made them feel good and made them feel special, it made it special for them. You know, tips might have got better. Return customers, you want to create that customer retention. And if they're coming to see you, that brings value to the space that you're in, and they look at you as someone that is bringing value to their establishment. So that means that might get an increased salary. Maybe you can get a percentage off of the sales of the cocktails that you create. I mean, there's a lot of entrepreneurial ways that you can set things up while still in a space working for someone else too. So there's a lot of opportunity as long as you are flexible, creative, and innovative.
And here's a good one. This is Jada Schaefer. She's one of our cheerleaders here. And she asked, did you ever imagine having your face on so many magazines when you started your nonprofit?
No, I didn't. And that was like a shocker to me because I don't like cameras. I don't like taking pictures. And those couple of years, that was the most I've ever had to do photo shoots and things like that. So it was a little overwhelming. And, I started seeing pictures just being circulated all over. I'm like, when did that come? When did that come out? So no, I didn't imagine that. I knew that I wanted my name in lights and things from being an actress. I knew I wanted that, but I didn't know it was going to be because of my cocktails.
Yeah, I mean, and again, you've been on in Wine Enthusiast magazine, you've been in several Chicago publications, been in Vine magazine, so just really, really making a name for yourself, and it's all well deserved. No, this is Scott Keevian Boyd, and he asked, what kind of challenges do you come across that you might not see on a different job?
So when I was in the bars, I mean, you really are kind of like in the underworld. You're working when everyone else is up. You're working into the wee hours of the morning. So my patterns, my sleep patterns were a little bit different. Your eating habits can be compromised. So you have to just be very aware of those type of things because it's not
a great deal for somebody who's not a morning person.
Yeah, it's not for a well, I mean, you can find jobs that do that mostly at hotels and things like that, or brunch places. But most of the time, you are working, late hours. You're starting at like 6 o'clock and going all the way to maybe like 2 a.m. or and safety has always been an issue. I mean, I'm a woman, so I always carry like my little wine cork or something, or some mace or something, just if I'm leaving the bar late or something like that. So there are some with every position or every job, it has its ups, it has its downs. And just not falling into the traps that could be, like I said, you all don't have to worry about this, but if you just know about it, I know that you all have, like, I don't know. Look, I'm dating myself now. Do you all still do Dare? Like the
No.
oh
You are dating yours. I didn't think you were that old.
yeah, okay, well, no, but when you're dealing with spirits and stuff, you can come across alcoholism in our industry as well. So just being aware of what your intake is and just making sure that you are staying healthy and taking care of yourself. I think, like, mentally, physically, emotionally, because it can be tolling. You just have to have balance.
Now, here's an interesting question. This is Jayla Graham, and she asked, I'm an outgoing person, but I don't feel like I can comfort people very well. Could I still be good in hospitality?
Yeah. It's a learning process. You don't just come in and know exactly how to approach certain situations. It really is a conflict resolution. So being quick on your feet, and thinking about, like I said, thinking of it in the case of, like, how would I receive this? How would I want to hear this? Or like, we try to detach ourselves from things that are sad or are bad or make people mad. And it's just, how would you find comfort, if it's, and sometimes it is like, I'm gonna just kind of leave them alone, or I'm gonna get them exactly what they need, so they don't have to have too much interaction. You can kind of figure it out as you go along, and you'll learn people's personalities because you're dealing with so many on a day-to-day basis, over time. So I don't think you should have to think too hard. If you like people and you have a willingness to help, that's all you need. Everything else will follow. I don't think that you have to have all of the answers or what to say or how to comfort someone. It's not like coming from behind the bar and giving them a hug. That might be the case in one of the times, or just say, like, do you need a hug? And we were just coming out of a space where we were not hugging. So it'll come to you, whatever it is. But if you are a people person and you have the willingness to want to help, then that comforting aura will come out of you.
I agree. I just got one more from the students. This is Alexis Bailey, also one of our cheerleaders, and she
Okay.
asked, how do you see yourself growing from where you are now in your career?
Okay. Hey, namesake. I believe that, you know what, I'm planning for the future, but the seeds that I'm planting now, I think, like doing this, speaking to you all, inspiring more people to get into hospitality, or find their gifts within hospitality. I think that I would like to continue going down that route. I really enjoy, I'm very passionate about what I do. I want to still travel the world, and inspire in some type of way. So hopefully everything that I'm doing now will push me into that, in the future. But just very much so how I came into where I'm at now. I was just reading a meme, and it was talking about, I'm getting a little nerdy now, but about quantum physics, about how being present, everything that you are doing now will reflect your future, and everything that you did in the past has gotten you to where you are now. Wow. So I'm just being present, taking every day by day, and just trying to put my best foot forward, trying to do the best that I can with what I got. And just being, really, my goal is just to be a light in people's life, and wherever that transcends me, then that's where it'll be. So I don't look too much into the future. I just kind of focus on what I can right now, and just know that where I want to be. I know that I want to travel. I know that I want to maybe live somewhere warm. And as long as I keep those things in my heart, I'll be where I'm supposed to be in the future. I feel like I'm just setting myself up for it now.
All right, we're almost out of time, and we thank you as always for joining us. But before we go, two things. One, let these people know that are watching with us now or watching later, you got to tip your servers and bartenders.
Yes, 20% at least. We're starting at 20%. If they were amazing and just over the top, you can add more onto that. But my go-to is whenever I get my check, I take the first number, times it by 2. That's how you get 20%. And just add that to the check. That automatically, whenever you're somewhere. And that goes for like food, restaurants, bars, things like that. If you are, might be valet or something like that, always tip like at least $3 to $5 on whatever it is, whatever the service is. And that's just if there's no, like, if it's under $10 or something like that. But yeah, I mean, this would be a whole nother conversation, but if we talk about where, the history of tipping and then how society has changed, where it came from to where we are now, tipping is built into venues rely on tipping to make up for what wages are lost, because that even though you're working a certain number of hours, minimum wage is different for people that work in restaurants and bars. And I know that it's different in different places, but right now I know that they raised it to like $15 an hour mandate for certain restaurants. And then when you get into hotels, like I said, they're unionized. But back to your question, yes, always tip. Even if it's bad service, I say the least that you can give is about 15%. But just understand that you don't, just like we're going there, customers are going through a lot. So are the laborers. And with everything that has changed since COVID, things are a little wonky and funky right now. So just give them grace. People are figuring things out, and I just feel like it's just a way. It's just a way of life. That's your give back as well.
Yeah, and I was always realistic. Everybody can't afford to be the big tipper, but just showing some kind of appreciation for people working hard. You never know. If they're raising a family, it really is. And it's also having the tip is what keeps the food and beverage costs down for the restaurant, because if they start paying a higher hourly rate, that price is going to go up anyway. So
Yep.
And then when the food isn't good, it's not the servers or bartenders' fault. So always
always speak up about it. If you're not pleased with
absolutely.
something, just speak up about it and just say like, hey, this is not what I expected. I don't know if this is supposed to be like this, but I wasn't 100% pleased with it. Can we maybe order something else? Can you take this back? And it's just about your delivery. But as much as we are customers, we need to be good customers too, and understand that we're dealing with human beings and not talking to them like, like this ain't right, give me another one. It's a way to do it. It's about delivery.
Absolutely. And before we go, tell these young people why hospitality needs them, because there's always a need for hospitality professionals.
There's always a need. It's like I said, it's invaluable, transferable skills that you'll learn. Right now is very crucial, only because they are trying to automatize everything. Like I said, robots and computers are taking people's jobs, and if we allow that to be our norm, then it will be. So I think go after these spaces where customer service is where there's a need, because when you can show that value, you can make more and you can demand more, because that's something that no one can replace. And I just think that, like I said before, I just think that it's a really great industry to get a start and to learn just about humanity. And I think that we need that right now, especially with everything being a click away and being in our phones. We need that human interaction and just getting to know and love and nurture one another again. So that's my pitch.
Awesome. But causingastir.org.
Yes, causingastir.org. If you want to learn more about our organization, you can follow me on Instagram. I do post a lot of liquor stuff, so you got to be 21 or older. But at Lex Luga on Instagram, LEXLUGA.
Great Instagram follow.
Yeah, and if you're ever in Chicago, shoot me a message and I'll send you some recommendations on where you should go in the city.
Time I
A
come
lot
to
of people.
you got to hang out.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I'm waiting for you.
All right. Well, again, Alexis Brown, all the way from Chicago, Illinois. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you all. Have a good one.
I'll talk to you soon, my friend.
All right. Bye-bye.
Yeah.